Have you ever stood by the grave of someone you cherish and thought, "Can you see me? Are you aware of how much I long for you? Have you truly departed, or do you somehow remain with us this evening?" You are about to uncover one of the most comforting secrets bestowed upon the Church through divine revelation. Through the mystical insights of Saint Faustina Kowalska, the messenger of divine mercy, you will come to understand that death is not a barrier but rather a passage, and love is not interred with the body, but transformed into something even more exquisite and eternal. The spirits of your lost loved ones have not faded into oblivion, they have not forgotten you. Indeed, through Saint Faustina's remarkable encounters with souls from purgatory and even glorified spirits, we learn that they can see you, they are aware of your hardships, they feel your affection, and they advocate for you in ways that hold greater power than during their earthly journey alongside you. Are you prepared to catch a glimpse beyond the veil of eternity and grasp how the communion of saints genuinely operates? If you have a deep appreciation for spiritual content that will change your perception of life, death, and everlasting love, subscribe to this channel immediately. Activate the notification bell to ensure you do not miss the profound lessons that will fortify your faith journey. Your soul is on the verge of being touched by revelations that could forever alter your perspective on the loved ones you've lost. Now let us embark on this sacred journey together, exploring what Saint Faustina witnessed when heaven unveiled its mysteries to her humble heart. You might assume that when someone passes away, they simply close their eyes to this world for good, but what if I told you that Saint Faustina discovered the precise opposite is true? In her diary she writes of a profound vision, in which she observed how the souls of the departed actually acquire a new form of sight, not through physical eyes, but through the pure vision of the heart, illuminated by divine light. These souls do not perceive the material world as we do, they discern something infinitely more beautiful, the spiritual essence of love itself, radiating from the hearts of their families who remain on earth. When you pray for your departed loved ones, when you offer a mass, or when you simply whisper their name with affection, Saint Faustina beheld that these souls regard these actions as golden rays of light shattering through the mysterious veil, separating earth from eternity. In diary entry 20, she recounts observing souls in purgatory turning towards earth every time someone remembered them in prayer, their faces lighting up as if flowers turning toward the sun. Can you picture the comfort this provides them? Your love does not perish with their physical departure. Instead, it becomes evident to them in ways far more beautiful than anything they experienced in life. But here's what brought Saint Faustina to tears. These souls not only witness your actions, but they also grasp the intentions behind them. They sense the depth of your love, the sincerity of your sorrow, and the purity of your wish to assist them. When a mother lights a candle for her departed child, the soul perceives not only the flame, but the fervent love burning within her heart. When a spouse endures suffering for their deceased beloved, the soul observes not just the sacrifice, but the unbreakable bond that death could not sever. This is why Saint Faustina often wrote that love builds a bridge which death cannot destroy. The practical implications for your life are profound. Every heartfelt act of love towards your deceased family members is witnessed, felt, and cherished by them. Begin today. Speak their names in your prayers. Make small sacrifices for their souls. Attend Mass with their intentions in your heart. Remember this truth that will transform your connection with loss. Love produces light that souls can perceive across eternity. Do you feel urged to connect with your loved ones in this newly revealed manner? There exists a kind of suffering that Saint Faustina observed in the spiritual realm, which breaks the heart of anyone who truly comprehends it. The anguish of souls witnessing their families moving forward as if death had completely severed every link. In one of her most touching visions documented in diary entry 20, she encountered a soul lamenting in purgatory. When she inquired why, the soul responded, "I weep because those who cared for me have forgotten that I continue to exist. They live as though I never existed, and their forgetfulness is a burden heavier than the purifying flames that cleanse me." Jesus revealed to Saint Faustina that souls in purgatory perceive time differently than we do, but they experience the intensity of love, or its absence, with extraordinary depth. When families cease to pray for them, cease mentioning their names, refrain from incorporating them into their spiritual journeys, these souls do not harbor anger or bitterness. Instead, they experience an overwhelming sense of spiritual isolation. It is not that they require our love to exist, but their purification is made simpler when they feel the warmth of remembrance streaming towards them from our world. Reflect on this. Your deceased mother is not disheartened because you do not visit her resting place each day. Rather, her spirit delights when you murmur, "I love you, Mum," during your morning prayers. The most poignant aspect of Saint Faustina's revelation is that souls are aware when their families face significant decisions, encounter serious challenges, or experience profound joys, without recognizing their ethereal presence or seeking their intercession. They wish to assist, to intercede, to be involved in the family's spiritual journey. However, they can only do so effectively when there is a living connection of prayer and remembrance from our world. When you behave as if death has rendered them insignificant in your existence, you are overlooking powerful intercessors who are already nearer to God than you are. This evening before you retire, converse with your departed loved ones as if they are present with you, because in spirit they may indeed be. Share your day's happenings with them, request their prayers, include them in your aspirations and anxieties. Embrace this sacred truth: the souls perceive our forgetfulness, yet they illuminate when we remember them. How might your life transform if you genuinely believed that your loved ones remain an active part of your family, albeit in a different realm? Envision this remarkable scene that Saint Faustina witnessed during one of her mystical encounters. She beheld strands of golden light extending from our world to purgatory, and she inquired of her guardian angel what they represented. He elucidated that these were the prayers of the living, reaching their departed loved ones, and each prayer manifested as a radiant cord connecting earth to heaven. What struck her most was observing how various types of prayers produced differing intensities of light. A casual "may God grant their soul rest" manifested as a faint flicker, whilst a heartfelt rosary shone like a golden rope, and a mass offered for a soul created what she described as a pillar of fire, reaching the very throne of God. The souls themselves, Saint Faustina observed, could perceive these golden threads drawing near to them, and they would extend their spiritual hands to receive the grace contained within every prayer. In her diary entry, 1226, she notes Jesus telling her, "The souls in purgatory constantly benefit from the Church's prayers, the mass almsgiving, and other good works, especially those offered specifically for them." However, here is what will astonish you: when a prayer is made for all souls in purgatory, it appears to them as a gentle rain of light benefiting many, but when someone prays specifically for their own deceased family member, that prayer transforms into a concentrated beam of divine mercy that alters the soul's experience. Saint Faustina came to understand that the most potent prayers for the deceased are not necessarily the longest or most intricate. What truly matters is the love and sincerity imbued in them. A child voicing Jesus, "Please watch over Grandpa," with genuine affection can conjure a brighter light than complex prayers recited without true feeling. She observed souls being instantly freed from purgatory at the moment of consecration during a mass offered for them, their faces glowing with joy as they rose toward eternal light. This is why she continually stressed that we must never underestimate the power of simple, heartfelt prayers. If this message resonates with you and aids you in comprehending the extraordinary power of prayer for your departed loved ones, please comment, "I believe in the communion of saints," and subscribe to this channel to receive more teachings that will enrich your spiritual knowledge. Practice this tonight. Select one specific departed family member and dedicate 1 decade of the rosary solely for them, envisioning your prayer as golden light reaching their soul. Remember, every prayer is a golden thread that binds our world to heaven. Are you prepared to strengthen these sacred connections? There is something profoundly touching that Saint Faustina discovered regarding how departed souls react when they observe their living family members returning to God. In her diary, she recounts a vision in which she witnessed souls in purgatory suddenly filled with joy. And when she asked why, Jesus explained, "Ella descrive uma visão onde viu almas, no purgatorio de repente, iluminadas de alegria. E quando pergunto por quê, Jesus explico. They rejoice for a member of their earthly family has returned to me through heartfelt confession and genuine transformation. The joy of these souls is so immense that it alleviates their purifying sufferings and accelerates their entrance into heaven." Can you envision the joy your late grandmother experiences upon witnessing you, who perhaps lived carelessly for numerous years, finally kneeling in a confessional and sincerely repenting? Saint Faustina perceived that souls can discern the spiritual condition of their family members with absolute clarity. They observe when someone's heart is hardened by sin, when someone grapples with faith, and especially when someone undergoes that grace-filled moment of true conversion. She noted that these souls pray incessantly for the salvation of their family, and when their prayers are fulfilled, their own purification intensifies because they've engaged in God's redemptive work. The saint uncovered something even more extraordinary. When a family member converts or strengthens their faith, it initiates what she referred to as a mystical exchange, where the prayers and merits of the converted individual become particularly potent for their departed relatives. A son who refrains from drinking and begins attending daily mass doesn't merely save his own soul. His revitalized spiritual life transforms into a source of grace for his deceased father. A daughter who forgives past family grievances and embraces religious life becomes a wellspring of mercy for her departed mother. This illustrates the magnificent reality of the communion of saints in action. However, here lies the challenge that Saint Faustina presents to each of us. The souls can also perceive when we stubbornly cling to sin, when we squander the graces for which they intercede on our behalf, when we could ascend to sainthood but instead opt for mediocrity. They don't condemn us, but they experience spiritual sorrow. Understanding that our spiritual advancement would not only save our own souls, but also serve as their pathway to greater glory. Begin today to live in a manner that brings joy to your departed loved ones. Strive for holiness, not solely for your own sake, but for all the souls relying on your spiritual development. Your transformation creates joy that resonates throughout eternity. What alteration will you implement today that will bring delight to your loved ones in the afterlife? In one of the most awe-inspiring visions documented in her diary, Saint Faustina was granted the opportunity to witness the occurrences in the spiritual realm during the celebration of Mass when it is offered for the deceased. She describes observing the church filled not only with the living faithful but also with innumerable souls from purgatory who were somehow spiritually present, their forms becoming increasingly radiant as the Mass advanced. At the moment of consecration, when the bread and wine transmute into the true body and blood of Christ, she saw several souls being instantly liberated from purgatory, ascending towards heaven like flames drawn upward by an irresistible spiritual force. Jesus elucidated to Saint Faustina that the Mass constitutes the most powerful prayer the Church can offer for the dead because it presents the very sacrifice that opened heaven to humanity. When a Mass is offered for a specific soul, that soul receives graces that are immeasurable, not merely due to the prayers of the priest and congregation, but because they are directly touched by the redemptive power of Christ's passion, death, and resurrection. She recorded in diary entry 1783, "I observed the deep suffering endured by the souls in purgatory, yet I also recognized that they are profoundly aided by our prayers, particularly through the Holy Mass." What impacted Saint Faustina most profoundly was witnessing how the souls reacted when their family members attended these Masses with genuine devotion as opposed to when individuals attended merely out of obligation. When someone participated in Mass with their heart truly united to the sacrifice, thinking specifically of their departed loved one, she perceived the grace flowing to that soul like a powerful river. But when someone attended while distracted, preoccupied with worldly concerns, the grace remained yet diminished to what she described as a gentle stream. The disparity lay in the spiritual engagement and intention of the living family member. The practical implication is unmistakable. If you genuinely wish to assist your departed loved ones, there is no alternative to having Masses offered for them and engaging in those Masses with your entire heart. Don't simply drop money into the Mass intention box and walk away. Attend the Mass. Merge your prayers with the sacrifice. Present your presence as a gift to your loved one's soul. Saint Faustina observed that souls are frequently liberated at the exact moment their family members partake in communion with love and faith. The Mass transforms the love of the earth into the key of heaven. When will you next present this ultimate gift to someone you hold dear? One of the most healing revelations that Saint Faustina received pertains to how souls who have departed perceive the unresolved disputes and unpardoned grievances lingering within families when death parts them. In a particularly touching vision, she encountered a soul who had passed away while estranged from her daughter due to a bitter family quarrel. The soul did not suffer from anger or resentment. Instead, she emanated a profound sadness, blended with hope, explaining to Saint Faustina, "I now understand how trivial our conflict was compared to the love that death cannot extinguish. I pray incessantly that my daughter will forgive me not because I am condemned, but because her forgiveness would heal both our souls and forge a bridge of peace between us." Saint Faustina discovered that souls in the afterlife perceive human conflicts with perfect spiritual clarity. They comprehend the grievances on both sides, the misapprehensions, the pride that hindered reconciliation, and most importantly, they see the immense love that lay beneath the surface of anger. These souls do not require our forgiveness for their own salvation. However, they yearn for it because forgiveness engenders what she referred to as a mystical healing that transcends the veil of death, transforming anguish into tranquility for both the living and the dead. The saint observed something extraordinary when living family members consciously forgave their deceased relatives. At the moment of genuine forgiveness, she witnessed light literally flowing from the living individual to the soul, and the soul's countenance became more radiant and serene. When someone forgives a departed parent who was harsh, a spouse who was disloyal, or a sibling who was selfish, that act of mercy transforms into a prayer that spans eternity. Jesus conveyed to Saint Faustina, "Forgiveness extended to the dead becomes a crown of glory for the living and a source of rejuvenation for the souls." Yet here's the aspect that may challenge you. Saint Faustina also observed how departed souls mourn when their living family members remain shackled by resentment and unpardonable faults. A mother who perished in an accident while arguing with her teenage son suffers not from divine punishment but from witnessing her child's destruction of his own peace by clinging to anger and guilt. These souls wish to convey that love transcends every human failing and that holding on to bitterness inflicts far greater pain upon the living than the dead. This evening, express words of forgiveness to any departed family member who has caused you hurt, and feel the spiritual chains shatter not only around your heart, but also in the communion of souls. Forgiveness forms bridges that death cannot dismantle. Who do you need to forgive to heal both your soul and theirs? Perhaps no vision touched Saint Faustina more profoundly than her encounters with the souls of children who had died young, infants who lived merely for days, children who succumbed to illness, young individuals whose lives were tragically cut short. What she uncovered about these innocent souls completely transformed her perception of death and will provide profound comfort to any parent or family member who has endured such a loss. In her journal, She recounts seeing these young souls not as they appeared at their time of death, but in their spiritual maturity, glowing with knowledge and love that transcended earthly comprehension. These child souls, Saint Faustina discovered, have a unique role in the spiritual realm. They act as potent intercessors for their families precisely because their innocence grants them immediate access to God's presence. She witnessed infant souls who had died at birth praying with remarkable spiritual insight for their parents' salvation, and teenage souls who had perished in accidents interceding with remarkable wisdom for their siblings' spiritual growth. Jesus explained to her that these little ones receive in an instant the knowledge and love that others gain through years of spiritual development. Their premature death is not a punishment but a calling to become guardian angels for their families. What amazed Saint Faustina the most was witnessing how these young souls perceive their family's grief. They do not wish for their loved ones to cease mourning. They comprehend that grief is love with nowhere to go. Yet they desperately want their families to understand that death did not strip them of life. It merely transitioned them to a different kind of existence where they can love more purely and pray more effectively. She observed the souls of children becoming troubled not by the tears of their families but by the despair that their families felt. This was particularly evident when parents began to question God's love, or when siblings started to fear death as the ultimate separation. The most comforting aspect of Saint Faustina's revelation is that these child souls retain their gentle affection for their families, while acquiring profound wisdom regarding eternal matters. An infant who passed away at 6 months comprehends spiritual truths that earthly theologians spend entire lifetimes trying to grasp, yet still takes joy in their mother's prayers and their father's acts of kindness offered in their remembrance. They are both innocent children and sagacious intercessors. If you have lost a child or young family member, take solace in knowing that they are not lost, diminished, or forgotten. They have become your family's mightiest prayer warriors, advocating from the closest possible proximity to God's heart. Young souls transform into heaven's most formidable advocates for their families. How does this understanding alter your relationship with grief and hope? Saint Faustina was afforded a remarkable privilege that few mystics have experienced. She was permitted to observe what occurs to a soul at the exact moment of death, and more significantly, how departed family members partake in that sacred transition. In various visions documented in her diary, she recounted seeing the souls of those who had recently passed being welcomed by their deceased relatives who had gone before them. However, this was not merely a straightforward family reunion. It constituted a profound spiritual event, where the love among family members became manifest as beams of light that guided the newly departed soul towards its eternal destination. She witnessed that souls who had lived in grace were greeted by their departed loved ones, who appeared as entities of light, emanating the love they had shared on earth, now purified and intensified. A mother who had prayed diligently for her deceased husband throughout her time of widowhood was met by the soul of that husband, which had been transformed by her prayers into a resplendent intercessor. The saint observed how the prayers, sacrifices, and love expressed by family members during someone's lifetime and following their passing literally become part of the spiritual preparation for that soul's transition to eternity. Yet Saint Faustina also witnessed the heartrending reality of souls who died unprepared, who had lived distanced from familial ties and spiritual connections. These souls were not abandoned, but their transition proved more arduous due to fewer spiritual ties to assist them. She perceived how the prayers of even distant relatives or forgotten friends could lend support to these souls, affirming that no act of love is ever in vain, and that family bonds blessed by God extend far beyond what we can envisage in earthly existence. The practical wisdom derived from Saint Faustina's visions is remarkable. The love you extend to family members presently, the prayers you offer for departed relatives, and the forgiveness you impart across familial wounds, all of this forms a spiritual network that will be activated at the moment of your own demise. You are not merely assisting your departed loved ones, you are also preparing your own reception into eternity. Every act of familial love becomes part of the everlasting communion that transcends death. Invest now in these spiritual connections that will hold greater significance than anything else when your earthly journey concludes. Love prepares the welcome that awaits us beyond death. What investment will you make today in these eternal familial bonds? In one of her most enigmatic visions, Saint Faustina was shown what she referred to as the hidden prayer life of departed souls. The constant intercession that our deceased family members offer for us before God's throne is often more powerful and relentless than any prayers we received while they were alive. She witnessed departed parents praying with supernatural insight for the spiritual needs of their living children, deceased spouses interceding for the salvation of their surviving, beloved and departed siblings, making sacrifices in the spiritual realm for the conversion and protection of their living relatives. What astonished Saint Faustina was the revelation that death does not lessen a soul's love for family. Instead, it purifies and intensifies that love beyond earthly limitations. A father who may have been too preoccupied or emotionally unavailable during life transforms after death and purification into an exceptionally focused intercessor for his children's spiritual welfare. A mother who incessantly worried about her family during her lifetime transforms that anxiety into unwavering trust and fervent prayer for their everlasting salvation. These souls perceive their family's spiritual perils and opportunities with divine insight and respond with intercession that possesses supernatural efficacy. Saint Faustina discovered that departed souls cannot communicate with us directly except under extraordinary circumstances permitted by God. However, they can impact our lives through their prayers in manners we seldom recognize. That sudden urge to reach out to an old friend, that unexpected chance for reconciliation, that grace that aids you in resisting a grave temptation, that solace you experience during an especially trying ordeal. Saint Faustina realized that these instances of grace frequently arise through the intercession of deceased family members who are praying for precisely what you require at just the right moment. The most comforting aspect of this understanding is that your departed loved ones have not ceased to care about you. They have progressed to a level of concern that is more effective and entirely selfless. They are no longer troubled by earthly matters but are intensely focused on what truly matters: your salvation, your spiritual development, and your eventual reunion with them in eternal joy. When you feel isolated, remember that you have family members in heaven who are praying for you with insight, love, and access to divine power that exceeds any possibility during earthly existence. Death alters earthly love into heavenly intercession. How does understanding this hidden prayer reshape your perspective on your current challenges? As we approach the culmination of Saint Faustina's revelations regarding how souls observe their families from beyond, we confront perhaps the most exquisite truth of all. Every act of love, every prayer, every sacrifice made between family members throughout life and beyond is contributing towards a reunion that will surpass every earthly delight and mend every earthly wound. In her final visions concerning family bonds in eternity, Saint Faustina was granted glimpses of souls finally reunited in the fullness of God's love, where all the imperfections, misunderstandings and limitations that characterized their earthly relationships are transformed into perfect communion. She beheld families reuniting in heaven where the love they had struggled to express flawlessly on earth was finally liberated from all hindrances. The parent who departed far too early was united with children who were now adults, yet both existed in the timeless perfection of eternal life. The marriage that had been strained by human frailties was rejuvenated in the perfect love that marriage was eternally intended to reflect. The siblings who had vied and quarreled found themselves united in shared awe at God's mercy. Saint Faustina understood that every moment of genuine love exchanged between family members on earth is eternally preserved and perfected in heaven. While every failure to love is entirely healed by divine mercy, the saint discovered that the greatest joy of the departed soul is not solely their own salvation, but their eager anticipation of the moment when their entire family will be reunited in God's love. They pray incessantly for this ultimate reunion, fully aware that it is not merely a possibility, but God's deepest desire for every family touched by His grace. The souls do not perceive earthly separation as failure or earthly death as defeat. They regard these as temporary obstacles being surmounted by God's patient work of bringing all His children home to the eternal family that transcends biological ties, but includes and perfects them. This is why Saint Faustina encourages us to live in the present with eternity in mind, to love our families not merely as earthly connections but as spiritual bonds destined for eternal perfection. Every act of forgiveness, every prayer for a family member, every sacrifice made out of love, every moment dedicated to placing family relationships in accordance with God's will. All of this serves as preparation for the eternal communion, where love will be perfectly given and perfectly received, devoid of any shadow of selfishness, misunderstanding, or separation. The departed souls perceive this eternal destiny and are working through their prayers and intercession to aid every family member in reaching this blessed reunion. Love constructs the bridge to eternal family communion. How will you choose to live today as a person destined for a flawless family reunion nestled in God's love? Having traversed these profound insights that Saint Faustina shared regarding how souls perceive their families from the beyond, your connection with death, grief, and familial love has been irrevocably transformed. You have unearthed the truth that death is not a barrier, but an entrance, that love does not cease but evolves, and that your loved ones who have departed have not forgotten you, but are fervently praying for you with extraordinary strength and divine wisdom. Take a moment to absorb this reality into your heart. At this very moment, as you conclude reading these words, you are enveloped by the love and intercession of family members who have gone ahead of you. They witness your challenges, rejoice in your successes, pray for your transformation, and look forward to your eventual reunion with them in everlasting joy. The communion of saints transcends mere theology. It's a vibrant reality that includes your own family members who have crossed over from death into a fuller existence. Should these revelations from Saint Faustina have resonated with your heart and unveiled the exquisite mystery of eternal familial love, it's time to take action. Subscribe to this channel and enable notifications so you will receive more content that enriches your grasp of spiritual mysteries. Share in the comments which aspect of this message resonated with you on the deepest level. Pass this video along to someone who requires the solace of knowing that love surpasses death. Most importantly, allow this understanding to reshape how you live. Pray daily for your departed loved ones, offer masses in their name, and communicate with them as though they can hear you, for they can. Resolve any unresolved matters, cherish your living family members more profoundly, and remember that you are not merely living for terrestrial happiness, but preparing for an eternal union where every bond will be entirely healed and utterly fulfilled. Keep in mind the truth that Saint Faustina discovered, and let it be a source of comfort throughout your earthly sojourn. Death cannot sever what? But preparing for eternal communion where every bond will be wholly healed and flawlessly fulfilled. Hold on to the truth that Saint Faustina revealed, which will bring comfort throughout your earthly expedition. Death cannot sever what?